Good evening. Welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we are on special guest Theo. Theo's from the LUNACHICKS. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing? Thanks for
I'm doing.
having me.
I'm glad to have you on. Been a big fan forever. And as I was saying earlier, I remember seeing you in the early '90s and all kinds of clubs. You were playing with everybody. Super outrageous, super fun. Totally standing your ground because, well, actually, we can start off male-dominated music industry,
Yeah.
and you guys were bigger than the bands. The male bands just like dominating.
Right.
Um, you were like, I think I saw you. Was it one of the shows? I think it was with Marilyn Manson,
Uh-huh.
probably.
Yep.
And I think you blew them off the stage. You guys were just so powerful and
Thank you.
entertaining and very entertaining. Um, but you guys start out, and we were talking. You guys have a book out now, and I want everybody to check it out. Chock full of so much information. As a fan, I didn't know half this or any of this, and it's actually, even if you're not a fan of, say, the music, there's a lot of good stories in it. It's very female empowered. It's not about sitting back. It's about being yourself and kind of fighting for things. There's a real
Yeah.
good arc to it. It's not just about music, which makes it even better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the friendships you guys had, you guys were more of a friends and a gang that evolved into a band.
Mm-hmm.
If we could talk about a little bit, like yes, especially nowadays, everything's so hard. Like our kids are all like locked up and we can't go outside and everything. You guys were like 15, 14 years old in New York,
Yep.
running amok.
Yes, we were.
And looking back, that's insane. I mean, I had some freedom, but I wasn't in New York either. How did that
Right.
even?
I mean, it just is what it was. And it was like there was something so amazing about being able to hop on the subway and go to the, East or West Village, mostly the East Village, and run, just like be wild, and nobody could find you. Nobody was trailing you. You couldn't track anybody then, and we just did what we wanted to. And there was a lot of, as a young teen, like lying and saying, "Oh, I'm at so and so's house," when really I was like out all night and sitting on stoops and drinking 40s and all that stuff.
That's insane. I
Um,
mean, that's a lot of things people can do, like out in in Kansas and different cities when you're younger, because it's or safer farmland or smaller, excuse me, towns. But you're like in New York. I mean, I was just in New York this weekend in Brooklyn, and I was thinking about it. I'm like,
yeah,
how are these ladies running around at 14 at any time period?
yeah,
That's just crazy.
yes, yeah,
But you had each other's backs though too, and it was
yes, we
different.
did. It was for
What about the
sure.
so like you guys evolved into a band. Your friendship was just, you guys are so close. It was you Gina and Sydney in the beginning, and then your
Mhm.
boyfriend at the time, obviously you guys played drums for a while.
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
that just
and
to get
Cindy
him
too.
in? Yeah, it's yeah. Was that the just get him in, and then eventually you realized we wanted to be all girl band or female
Yeah,
band at
I
the
mean, at
time?
first, like we were sort of like we were experimenting, so we were like we all, we just knew that we liked good music, so we were like we can try this out. So it was sort of like, well, will you come and play with us? Not thinking like, oh, this guy's gonna be our drummer. Not thinking like, oh, we're gonna be a band for the next however many years. Just like, oh, let's go
Right.
do this. And then when it started to feel like, oh wow, we really are a band, then he was the singer in another band. So it was like, okay, now we have to find somebody. And then it was like, oh, we didn't even think like, oh, we should find another female.
Right.
And but then we were like, oh, that could be a good idea. Like it wasn't, none of it was intentional. It was just more
Right.
like, oh, we're friends, we like cool stuff, like we love hanging out together, we could hang out together and do this and see how it goes. So, and I think that's when like the best art is made, or music or anything, when you're sort of not with the intention of like, we're going to be famous, or we're going to make this thing that's going to sell a million copies, or it's just like, it's more about those sort of true creativity, and not thinking about the outcome when good things happen.
It's also, that makes sense, but it's unbelievable. Like you guys all decided you wanted to be a band, and you guys all became a very talented band. It wasn't like you're like, oh, we all become friends with this one person. They just could not keep the beat. You know what I'm saying? You really kind of lucked out. Like you know what I'm saying. You could have been like, two left feet here or something. You're a great singer. Like the whole band plays great, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a like a lightning in a bottle thing where you know what I'm saying. You don't usually get that. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially being in bands later on and playing with other people. You're like, oh, I mean, everybody can't play their instruments well. Like not everybody gels so well. Like that. That was like the best for you. That everything.
Yeah.
You guys were a team and you all played together out of the gate. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. We're lucky.
you were doing covers, obviously. So the songwriting, how was that about being the creative process and being
I
new?
mean, for me, it was, and for songwriting, it's kind of always a little different. Where sometimes, in the beginning, I would just like write crazy lyrics. I loved writing. I always enjoyed writing, so I would write like, we'd be like, which we write a song about, and be like, oh, you know, Snapple when it first came out. We wrote a
Yeah.
song, Snap Attack, and so it was like it was also just like we didn't care. It wasn't we weren't trying to, we were trying to entertain ourselves more than anything. And again, that's like we weren't trying to broadcast a message. We were trying to have fun. And in that we, sort of became feminist icons somehow.
Well, yeah, because it's funny because you don't say girl, you say female band, but at the time when you say Riot Girl, generationally, that's why it feels like you say girl band. You guys actually were young ladies. Actually, you were actually girl age, teenage girls at the time when you guys started.
We
So
literally were, yeah. And
right,
we
because
weren't
we were
Riot Girl. So I mean that's we lived through every sort of title of trend that would come up, or of that people wanted to sort of put us in a,
right.
when you can't, people, as humans, I think we like to be able to categorize things, and when we can't, we're like, well, that's like that enough, so we'll put it over there. And that happened to us all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this, that, the other.
I
And
mean, I heard that. I didn't think of you guys as that because you guys were just I don't know, just seemed like much more just like a regular punk band, punk rock.
yeah, exactly.
RAWK rock. Like you guys were your own
Yes.
thing. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like you, and it wasn't a bad thing. I'm not putting those bands down or that genre down
Oh,
because there's
no,
some great,
no,
fantastic musicians, but it wasn't the same.
no, no.
There was no comparing you to other artists. I mean, actually, probably I compare you guys more to like the energy of the Ramones or like a
Yeah.
Motorhead. Like it's where those
Yeah.
bands stand on their own and they kind of mix cross breeds or generations, or I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just no borders.
Yeah.
Which is why you could play with artists like Marilyn Manson. Not a lot of the Riot Girl bands would not have been able to hold their own on a stage because it was a different type of music,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
and
Exactly.
it's not right or wrong. Um, but you guys stayed together for a long time before you split. 5 albums, live stuff, a billion shows. You played probably all over the world.
Yeah.
The book, and then tell people this book is fantastic. We're skimming stuff because it's just an interview, but I want people to get the book. There's great stories of growing up, and it's amazing that the stories that each of you have in the book. It's written well. So I want to say props to the co-writer who helped you guys get it together, because I couldn't imagine getting everybody's brain into one book into a cohesive thought.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, I
What
don't
was that
think it
like?
would have. It was. I mean, it was amazing working with Jean, and I had started working with her before. God, it was so many years ago now, to write my own memoir, which now we're back to working on. And then at some point I was like, why don't we do the band first? Because I just felt like it was time and it would be fun, and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. And it took a long time, and it took a lot of like, interviews separately, interviews together. The collective memory was such a huge thing for us to, there were things that when we were together and we'd be like, oh, remember that, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, there are things that I completely blocked out that Gina remembered. And then there were things, it's like we all helped each other with the story and remembering. And then we had to turn it in 2020 in June, and because it was coming out a year later. And because of lockdown, we were able to work on it and get it really honed in the whole like spring, which was amazing because we would like Zoom, 2 or 3 times a week. Then we would each individually write, and then we would come together and discuss. And then we had to go through all the photos, and So the lockdown actually, I think, was a huge
Help.
unfortunate help for us.
Yeah.
Um, but and now we also have also has been being worked on a very long time is a documentary that's going to come out. I don't know
Ooh.
when, but it will eventually. And so that's sort of like the next big project as a band, as well as like we just played Riot Fest in Chicago.
How'd that feel, huh?
It
Awesome.
was it was awesome, and it was like 900 degrees when we played and we had direct sun in our eyes, so it was kind of like a battle with the sun. It was like, when you say like it was like staring into the sun, that's what it was like.
Really.
But also really, really fun too.
So I think when you're younger, you feel like you can take on anything. Now I get this point in my life, I'm like, oh, it's too hot. It's something to be fun, but it's just too much now. You know,
So hot. Yeah.
that's crazy. So are we going to be doing more? Obviously, you have other things. You have a lot going on in your life. Are you guys going to do more shows together too? Kind of keep it going now. For anything,
So I mean, there's nothing pending at the moment, but we would like to. I mean, we love
right?
playing together. It's so I was just like we still like I saw Gina the other day. I was just talking to Sid before I got on with you. So it's like we're as close as ever. And they're my favorite people. So it's like being up there, being on stage and playing music with them is feels like you know, I feel like there are many reasons to be on this earth, but it makes me feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be in a way that
Mhm.
maybe I forgot, or maybe I don't know. It's just beautiful.
It,
Um
you guys went through a lot together, but then you guys had a
yeah,
break later on. But I mean, I know there's like drugs and all kinds of things going on, and but that happens to everybody. But the other thing is, you guys grew up at a weird age together and didn't get that break. Like most people have like that college break, or they go off to school, they move out. That was the age that you guys were doing your thing. So your self identities on some level of just trying your own stuff on your own hadn't really kind of crept out. I think. And I'm gonna overspeak, right? So to
hmm
that point, you guys had that break, and now like you can come back together too. You stay friends, but I'm saying you're all like, oh, I can do other stuff as myself too, and as a
yes,
band. You know,
yeah, yes, absolutely. And it's funny because Jean was actually we were talking about, all these there's so many like celebrity deaths, but like Judy Tenuta, and
yeah.
how she was like Jean said she's like she always reminded her of me. And then like in sort of reading about her and I watched like a Joan Rivers clip with her on it that was hysterical, and how she said that she had to be sort of like more crass and more wild and bigger and louder and more obnoxious than all the men that she was
Mhm.
performing around and with and on tour. And I was like, that's kind of the same as us. It's like you had to sort of create become sort of this larger than life monster Barbie to it was almost like pay attention to me because I'm not a man, which is
Yeah.
not what I thought ever. But in a way that sort of like it was that becoming so almost superhero like that sort of maybe that's part of what made us stand out aside from the great songs and music. I
I
don't
think
know.
I think it was a struggle. I think you guys were showing your dominance, and
Yes.
it's not usually in that time. It was not there in a male field. Oh, girls are going to play. They literally say girls are going to play your instruments. Are you here to tune up? I'm sure you've heard some horrendous things.
Horrendous. Horrendous.
And
Yeah.
and and, and luckily nowadays it's probably not as bad, but you can't clean everything up. Um, you're a mom, and how is that looking back and doing that now? Like, do you like? Can you imagine?
Momming.
Yeah, momming. Yeah, being a mom now compared to what it was and all that you've accomplished, isn't it?
I mean, I have a great kid. I only have one, and she is amazing. And so far so good. She just turned 12, and we do have tracking on her phone, so I can see where she is and all these things, and we're very, very close.
Yeah.
It's very different from my upbringing, and I think that's great, and I'm sure that I'm turning into my parents one way or another, but um I'm bracing for the teen years, and also I know that we're going to have a very open dialogue, and I'll be able to see where she is, hopefully, and that it'll be better.
Probably your last year of being good friends with her until she's probably 20. I
No.
was the best friends with my kids until they become teens, and also I'm like, come on. They're like, oh, but it could be
Uh,
different. Come on, you're a lot cooler than I am, so maybe it'd be a little different, you know.
we'll see. Time will tell.
You've also done a lot of businesses though too. You've acted, modeling, obviously. Um, you've done some music with your husband, and
Mm-hmm.
it was in the Awesome Toilet Boys.
Yes.
I don't think enough people know about that band. I love that band. You
Yeah,
know,
I did too. They're playing in
I
Chicago next weekend. Yeah.
people check them out. If this
Yeah.
isn't the date wise, Google them, look
Yeah.
them up. There's a lot of good bands here to be checking out, and then the project you did together was really good.
Yes.
You guys play together. You know, there's
You
a
and the
lot of good music.
skyscraper.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's funny that you say when you were saying like I'm sure you've seen a lot like with the when we were on tour together, I was the only woman in the whole, in our tour. So it was like me and like we had at some point we had like three guys, my husband included, and then like guys who were working, tour manager and
right.
then merch person. And still, of course, I would walk in and someone would be like, "Oh, are you the merch girl?"
Oh, really?
Like, no.
That's the worst, especially because it wasn't that long ago. I mean, we have had some progress, and you are a bigger name and a bigger visual than most of the artists at that point. You know,
Well, and it's also like how about we turn the tables and like when you see a woman in a club loading in, that you assume that she's the one playing. What
right?
about that?
Please, you think that's going to happen? I think the promoters even pay attention to the music to begin with. So I'm saying the fact that people should recognize you as it was, so they should have given off a different air for you, or getting respect. That's going to take even longer. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a big shame. But I mean, but that was one of the things your band put out. You guys started to
Right.
blaze a trail. You know, along with Debbie Harry, like the strong, putting a path
Mhm.
through and being independent. You don't think it's what do you call it, masculine energy or feminine? I think at this point, I think it's all kind of mixed together. It's just great, being positive, strong energy,
Yes.
and equal.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you also have some businesses too. So you make up, design.
Hmm.
You're like, where are you at now? What do you got going on? From
I
outside.
I'm doing makeup. I'm a makeup artist and I also do some hair and I really enjoy it. It's like coming from visual art, it's like
Right.
I feel like as an artist in all the ways that I've done everything, it's just like it comes through me in different ways and makeup is one of the ways and it's fun and I earn money doing it and I really really like it. I like the like making people feel good, look good, the like artistic expression, all of it. It's very enjoyable as a job.
Well, you have credibility of doing it because you went to the best visual college, ever. 10 years touring with you Lunatic straight, and being your own visual person and showing it and living it. You're not like a designer. And once again, it doesn't like it's a knock who designs stuff, but hasn't had the opportunity to be out there. You've
Yeah.
designed and created your own look and lived it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it puts a little bit more behind what you do. Like it's not just you putting out someone else's idea. You're your own person, your own icon. Really,
Yeah.
now you're presenting to other people, which
Thank
which is like it's like a resume almost. Like you're like, yeah, this is what I've done. And as fun as you've been, I got you guys have done stuff. You've talked about like bulimia. You guys talked about some good stuff too. It's not like you guys were just being goofballs all the time.
Oh no, we had strong messages within
Oh yeah,
everything. We had, this binge and purge about bulimia. We
yeah,
had Fallopian Rhapsody, which, here we are again dealing with,
yeah.
our right to have abortions. It's like insane. And
The
and
timing is impeccable for that title of the book to come out,
I know it's kind of eerie actually. And
especially nowadays to even have that discussion. I wouldn't even have thought that we would have. But
all right,
oh,
it shouldn't be this should not be a debatable discussion anymore, and yet here we are. So, and it's
yeah,
worse than ever. But yeah, so we, and even like being a band that talked about like queer issues in life before, or so yeah, there was I think also just by being women out there doing it, we were feminists no matter what, and we were, unknowingly in some ways, and
Yeah,
also intentionally.
yeah, I can see that because I didn't feel like you were putting out anything except for just being yourselves and not
Yes.
taking garbage from anybody.
Yes.
And that's kind of what the truest form of it is, because you weren't asking for anything or you weren't giving anything. You're just being,
Yes.
existing, which on some level feels like it's better because it's not anybody like telling you and preaching you after a while. Nobody wants to listen to somebody tell them what to do, even if they're wrong. The person's wrong
Yeah.
being told what to do, they shut down. But if you
Yes.
just live it in front of them and they don't have a choice, you're like, this is how it is. You
Yep.
either accept it or you move on. You know,
Yep.
it's kind of the mantra I felt like with you ladies.
Yep.
And I
Totally.
want to say actually, we get to the end of this. What's amazing is this all of you, the skills you had afterwards. So if you think about it, you guys didn't really go, you guys were a band together, decided to be in a band, and then you guys stopped doing tattooing and running restaurants and building. There's so many other skills that everybody else had, which
Yep.
not a lot of artists, musicians do when their bands break up or do things. As we went to the '90s and the 2000s, a lot of people were scrambling, like, what are we going to do? And all of you
Yeah.
ladies had other skills
Yeah.
that you wouldn't,
Luckily, I mean,
it's a good thing, of course it is. Um,
yeah.
any music kind of, you guys going to do any music down the road?
We've talked about we actually started writing some stuff, but we like got COVID in a line, so then we
Yeah,
sort of fell out of it, and then we started preparing for our show, which took like all summer. We just kept rehearsing, so we would be awesome.
awesome.
So we're hoping to put some stuff out, but I can't, I don't know
That's
when, I
fair.
don't know all that.
Well, being a fan and it's been a little bit, been a hot minute to hear the music from you. It's very exciting,
Yeah.
the idea of having the book. When I remember the book, I was like, what, a book? I think I was trying to get this set up a while ago. And then the book, I'm like, what? And then I got the book and I'm like, this is fantastic. So to me, it's like a holiday. It's like not even just Christmas, it's like Hanukkah because I just keep getting gifts from you now. It's like a documentary. You have music. You guys are still gonna play out once in a while when you can do it. So it's like, yes, you know. And I encourage not just young women, just all kinds of everybody, just go out, check you out, read the book, be empowered by it. Just realize there's no rules. You know,
Yes. Yes.
that's what it
Make
is.
your own
Do,
path.
yeah,
Find one you like.
that's it. I want to thank you for being on the show today. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.